All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I am here with the band. Actually, before I even introduce the band, as I've said on other shows, one of the things I like to do a few times a year is just sort of ask listeners who they want to hear in the local music scene. I try my best to keep up on new bands, but I think as everyone knows, Winnipeg has just such a ridiculous amount of bands starting up. Like weekly, there's like 10 new ones that no one's ever heard of before. So I like to put the request out and say, who should I have on the show? Who do people want to hear more about? And the band on this episode came up as a suggestion, and it was a new one to me. And I'm glad that I actually took the time to to give it a listen, because I really like what I heard. And I think that the best way to sort of start this off is if the three of you want to introduce yourselves and what you do in the band, and then maybe just give a bit of background about where the band's coming from, because like I said, it was a new one to me.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go first there.
Sure.
So I'm Wyatt. I play the drums and I do vocals in this band. This band is Hopscotchbattlescars. Yeah, I'm going to someone else then, and then
Sure.
I'll jump back into.
My name is Simone. I do the vocals and guitar. That's really it.
Cool.
I'm Jude. I make noises with a guitar. That's that kind of shit.
Cool. So, I mean, first of all, Hopscotch Battlescars is a great name. What is the where does that come from? I love the name is great. The logo is awesome. Like it works really well with that kind of that standard metal font, right? Where does the name come from?
Sure. So I, for years, have just been brainstorming band names and putting them in my phone. So I have hundreds of them. I don't really know what I've kind of made the meaning to this name after coming up with it. I just like the alliteration of it, Hopscotch Battlescars. It rolls off the tongue in a fun way. But yeah, sort of thinking back on it, it kind of gives an idea of childhood trauma, which is sort of something that we kind of, explore, and ideas of bullying and whatever.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's. I think it's one of those names that people can probably ascribe meaning to when they hear it, right? It's not just like one of those one-word band names that either means one thing straight up or is just really vague. So it's cool. And then I guess I hate asking this question to people, and everyone hates answering it, but I have to do it. How do you define the type of music that you play? And the reason it sucks as a question is because there's so many subgenres of subgenres, and then as soon as you get into anything with the core suffix, it just gets into this weird umbrella of all these different things. But I would like to hear it kind of from you. Is how do you define this? If someone says, "Hey, I hear you in a band," what kind of music do you play? What's the kind of Cole's Notes version that any of you give out?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take it. I usually, when someone asks, I say that I play in a mathcore, MySpace revival sort of band. Those are my big headings. But really, genres are kind of labels are only what you choose them to be. Totally. And we kind of pull from all sorts of different elements. But yeah, I think mathcore, MySpace, metalcore is sort of a decent descriptor.
Yeah,
I like to kind of just go real simple. Just say we're kind of like a hardcore band.
Sure,
real cut
the
to
broadest
the chase,
umbrella.
Because as the genre of hardcore has progressed, especially over the past few years, what can be classified as hardcore I've seen get expanded quite a whole lot. So I can see a whole lot of different stuff, and it just kind of fits.
Even when I was trying to, look up what mathcore was, because I heard the term flying around, and I looked at it like, oh, I know a lot of these bands, all these bands that are fitting within the larger umbrella. So I think saying it's a hardcore band actually makes a lot of sense, because I think all of these subcore genres have all originally come from hardcore in some kind of way anyway. So it's a good fit. And then the MySpace thing, I like that too. I haven't thought about MySpace in 20 years. What is the what does MySpace mean to? I don't know how old any of you are, but I'm almost 40. So for me, MySpace is just this thing that I did way back when social media was starting up, and I've long since forgotten about it. But I know for a lot of people who are younger than me, it was there was a whole scene around MySpace as far as music and stuff. Is that sort of where the three of you are coming from?
Well, so I think I'm kind of coming from the group of people who are nostalgic for the MySpace scene, because there's a crop of bands that are coming up that are sort of doing the MySpace thing again, and we're sort of copying some of them. I think we're once removed from the MySpace idea, but I just love the bright neon monster merch and just the sound, the whatever. Sometimes we like to throw some clean chorus ideas in there. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like
something I got.
I could add to this. Like, as people in like our late teens, early 20s, we kind of like just missed the whole like MySpace scene,
Yeah.
and a lot of us that I have talked to, especially, kind of like mythologize it in a way, because there are all these like awesome bands that were around at that time, and all of them like they created their platforms through the internet. It was like a brand new thing at the
Yeah.
time that you could be a band and you could create a big fan base all through the internet. And it's like the first time it's ever happened. It's only ever continued to go in that direction. So the whole like MySpace era of like heavy music has really a turning point in the whole realm of just music in general, I see.
Well, it's like a next step in the DIY progression,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
totally.
it's tapes to burning CDRs to then suddenly you can put your music online, and then MySpace was a big thing for that.
Mhm.
At that, I like hearing that there's nostalgia for stuff that, because doing the show, I interview people who are between the ages of like 18 and 70, right? So there's or older, depending on who it is. So there's a really wide range of sort of where people fit in within the greater context of the music scene, and it was very cool to see that there's nostalgia for things that are to some people still considered new. It's like, oh yeah, that just happened like last year or something, right? But it didn't. But MySpace has this. It seems recent, and it's cool that there's nostalgia for it, and people are reviving that and taking that kind of era and then doing a new thing with it, because it always happens, right? It's nice to see that that's still happening on like a micro level.
Mhm.
That wasn't really a question. That was just, just me rambling. But so where do you actually fit in within the local music scene? Because I mean, that's another whole issue aside from genre, is that there's a metal community, there's a punk community, there's hardcore bands, and a lot of them are intertwined, and they play shows together. But there's also a lot of separate subgroups of those and cliquey shit and whatever. Do you have sort of a place that you feel that you fit in within Winnipeg's
It's
heavy
actually
music community?
it's actually pretty weird right now because we, well, at least these two, formed the band like in like January of 2020 or like December of 2020. So the shows weren't like a thing, and then I joined a few months later. So we haven't really been able to really get on to like the local scene that much,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because so much of our local scene is built on of going to shows, and those just haven't been a thing for like a year and a half now. So it's weird. Like we kind of try to align with kind of like the hardcore, more punk bands, but like it's really, we haven't really yet, just because of the nature of the last year.
Yeah, that situation everyone in the world has been in, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mhm.
Maybe a better way of asking that question then is, are there local bands that it might be different for all three of you, but that you sort of came up listening to? Like, are there bands that sort of inspired you to want to get into playing music yourself, as far on a local level?
I guess for me, there's a band called Murder Capital, which is
Yeah.
a local big band, which I love to death.
I had them on my show a couple of years ago. They're great. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, super cool. Yeah, just like their energy at shows is just like being able to perform. It's always something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Wyatt's other band, Black Pine, have seen them live too. Like really great energy. Have just always wanted to, I guess, like play live shows.
Cool.
Part of our local metal scene.
Anyone else have any kind
Yeah,
of like touch point bands?
Yeah, basically like Murder Capital, Black Pine again, and then like Bears the Technology. They're really cool. I like
Yeah, good
seeing
band,
them
yeah.
whenever I can, and Printport, and
And
yeah,
check-
just whatever bands I can go out and see. Yeah,
Well,
there's a lot
how
of
did-
cool stuff.
like you said earlier, this is kind of a relatively new band in that it started, when shit was happening and no one could play shows. How has that been? Like, how have you been able to make music together throughout this period that's just screwed over literally everyone doing anything creative?
Sure. Yep. Oh, go ahead.
You can answer that one if you want.
Okay, then I will. So yeah, we've been basically entirely self-produced and self-recorded. Like I had my drum set set up at home with like 4 mics. I figured out how to record drums. I'm not very good at it, but I figured it out over the year. And we would just send waves back and forth
Okay.
and then produce stuff, like all of the things that we have out right now are all just done from our bedroom.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because it's just like that's the only way we could do anything. Writing songs like that is really weird it's really weird to write songs by sending 15-second voice clips over Facebook Messenger, but you know, it happens and it works. But yeah, it's been really strange, and we're looking forward to getting together. We've been able to rehearse together and write music together as of recently, and it's been really fun.
That's awesome.
Most part-
Usually, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, for the most part, like even though we are all from like the same city, like the entire time we've just been like an internet band pretty much. Just like communicating back and forth over like Zoom meetings, and that's like all we've done pretty much. We've met at a couple times, but for the
The
most part.
timing though, the timing is great for that, because we're in an
Yeah.
era now where you actually, I mean, pandemic aside, you actually can do that. There's plenty of people doing bands full time that are like, you know, members in different cities and stuff, and they can literally just send files across. So it's it's not, obviously the pandemic is terrible, and no one wishes that it would have happened, but at any time in history, the fact that this is a possibility, at least there's that, right?
Yeah.
So what's I guess now that you can get together and actually be a band in person, what's sort of the plan going forward? Do you have sort of an idea of where you want to go with this project now that things are opening up, shows are starting to happen and stuff like that?
Yeah, we currently are working on our debut EP. We got that mostly written. We're planning on going into an actual studio to record at least some of it in the near future. And then after that, we got a show booked in Ontario for later October.
Oh, cool.
Already. That's the good thing about like being an internet band, is we have been able to make a lot of connections in a lot of different places instead of like just Winnipeg. So I think that's like a very one benefit of being a band with a large internet presence.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. Is there, I mean, are there larger scenes for the type of stuff you're doing in other cities? I mean, I know Winnipeg, again, it has that kind of overarching metal scene, and there's a hardcore scene, and it all mixes together. But I mean, are there, like in Ontario, for example, are there big scenes for stuff that's very similar to what you play?
I think Ontario's got a decent hardcore, mathcore kind of scene. I've been following this page, Mathcore Index, for years.
Okay.
And yeah, they just kind of show all of the great mathcore bands that are coming up. And a lot of them in like California, but like all throughout the States, there's a ton. And yeah, I'm just looking for those little pockets of mathcore because yeah, Winnipeg doesn't have a ton of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Toronto and North Bay, Ontario, lots of little pockets of mathcore up there.
Can we, again, I hate to do the genre thing, but can we try to define what mathcore means to the three of you? Because like I said, when I looked up the term, I'm like, oh yeah, I know bands that do this, but like, what would you, are there sort of high profile bands that you would point to as being, this is an example of what you consider to be mathcore, or of something that maybe inspires your band?
Mathcore to me, I guess, would be like hardcore punk with, I guess, like elements of metalcore, deathcore, you know, mixed in here and there. Just pretty much music with a lot of like jazz influence.
Yeah, like the fusion stuff in there, right?
Yeah, odd time signature, dissonant like scales and whatnot. Like when I think of mathcore bands like Car Bomb, Frontier, yeah, I can't think of any more at the moment, but those come to mind.
Cool.
Yeah,
sure. I've been trying to come up with the big four of mathcore, the same way that thrash has a big four.
Yeah.
It's easy to get the first three. I always think Dillinger, I think Converge, and I think Botch.
Okay.
But then the fourth one, I kind of changed my mind up a lot. Like Coalesce is a good band. Who else sort of in that time? I don't know. I think that's
kind of like late
four.
90s, early 2000s. You're talking.
Yeah.
Fuck, who was around that time?
but
Yeah,
I mean,
I mostly listen to kind of like the later, like late 2000s stuff.
Yeah.
So like I would always go for Tony Dance and Tap Dance Extravaganzas. Like they were like kind of my main entry into the world of mathcore, kind of.
sure.
Yeah.
So they're like my go-to band when I want to like introduce someone to the genre, because it's like mathcore to me, it's a chaotic, technical, noisy hardcore.
Yeah, Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess the dissonance in the jazz thing too, a lot of that is, it comes from like the chaotic kind of free jazz stuff that is really
Mhm.
not that different from noise music anyway, right? Because it's just so wild, and then the rules don't apply. But then they do suddenly apply again, and then they go back to chaos and stuff, which is what I really like about this stuff. Yeah, yeah. So is, since you recorded all of this stuff as an internet band by sending files back and forth, is it playable as a trio live? Like, is everything that you've recorded something you can actually pull off potentially at a show?
That's a great question.
yeah.
Two of the songs that we've currently released are playable. We can do it. It's hard to do vocals and play drums, but I've got
Sure,
it.
yeah.
But the last song that we wrote, I got a little too ambitious with, and I wrote parts that I cannot play while drumming. And also we kind of wrote it and then we kind of forgot it. So we're in the process of relearning that. Yeah.
As of right now, there's not one line that I can do while playing both guitar and vocals. It's just like such a rhythmic mess. Like it's just too much to like do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I joined after that song was recorded.
Okay.
So I don't even know the first thing about it. That's our song, Restart, Erase, Reset.
Yeah.
That's what it's called, right? Yeah.
Is that the newest one you have on
Erase,
Bandcamp?
Reset. It's
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I haven't even like started to like figure out how to learn that one, but like I would say like 2 out of 3 ain't bad for being able to actually play this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's always something I wonder too, because I mean, like, especially during this shitty year and a half, everyone's been at home. It's like people are coming up with really cool ideas, like of all kinds of bands, not just heavy stuff, right? And it's like, is this going to work now? Now that they have to actually play it in front of people, is it a possibility? So, what are you hoping to do in that case? Like, have you figured out sort of how you're gonna, other than just completely reworking the song?
Well, so we have just recently found a bass player
Oh, nice.
who also does vocals. So that'll make the whole playing live thing a lot easier.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
we're hoping to give him some of the vocal duties to maybe make some of that easier. I don't want to rework the song. I like the song a lot as it is. I just want to work hard to get it. But
Yeah, yeah. What
but yeah,
I was going to ask about the actual content of the songs, because I know you mentioned earlier on with the band name could reference like childhood trauma and stuff. What kind of topics are you covering in these songs? I mean, I know a lot of the bands that we've mentioned, as potential influences or forefathers of the genre, whatever you want to call them. A lot of them have a lot of, very not necessarily political, but they got messages, right? It's issue songs. Do you feel you're coming from that same kind of tradition of having something important to say with the music?
yeah, I would say so, for sure. Well, for the 3 songs that we have released, the latest one, Restart, Erase, Reset, is about climate change and climate issues. Pyramid Scheme, Mega Mall, Fracking Expo, Car Dealership is about capitalism and like whatever the unfair outcomes that it presents and everything. Yeah. And then God Hates Straight Pride Flags is about people, specifically like the Westboro Baptist Church and stuff, people who use religion to, attack queer people and just those sort of issues. So yeah, those are things that we're passionate about and we're definitely a political band in that sort of way.
That last one is a phenomenal song title, by the way. I like how there's a bit of humor in that too, right? I mean, I think there's a way to be political while beating people over the head with a message, and there's also a way to do it well, having some kind of sense of humor about it and saying something important while also making it fun, I guess, right? Is that sort of what you're aiming for?
Absolutely. That's, I think, where sort of the MySpace thing is coming through, because I've always loved how kind of tongue-in-cheek those bands are, with the obnoxiously long song titles and like ridiculous kind of lyrics, but still like often having a solid message and being angry about something. But, you
like
can do it in a way.
Like the whole thing about like the kind of like doing like political stuff but in kind of like a joking, kind of satirical, tongue-in-cheek manner. That's kind of like been a thing. Like if you even go back to like the 80s with all those like punk bands back there, all those guys were totally approaching all this political stuff in kind of a out there, kind of like goofy manner. Totally.
But then you get into the 90s and some of those, I mean, especially with hardcore, some of those straight edge bands, those straight edge vegan hardcore bands were just like, the joke was gone and it was the message just like, I mean, listen to Earth Crisis or something. And it's like, I love that band, but I mean, it's, they're telling you something very, very directly and blatantly, right? And there's not.
Yeah, they really beat you over the head with
Right.
their messaging.
Right.
It can get a bit exhausting sometimes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the riffs are there. So
The riffs are there. Yeah. Does writing stuff that obviously matters to you and being able to perform it in such an aggressive style of music, is that kind of cathartic? Like just to get that subject matter kind of out, whether you're screaming it or playing it, and you're doing it at extreme volume, you're doing it fast, you're doing it loud.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely it does. Yeah, I whatever. Obviously it's been an awful year, whatever, pandemic wise, but also there's just been a lot of like whatever hard things in the world to deal
Yep.
with.
Yeah, terrible things. Yeah.
So it's been, yeah, helpful for me to, instead of just being in my room and being really upset about these things, to put pen to paper and try and like, you know, say that I'm upset and then scream that I'm upset and then play drums loudly that I'm upset.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been, definitely cathartic. Definitely helps relieve some of those pent up emotions.
You can take it out on the drums or take it out on the mic or the guitar or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's cool. So where do people find you? I mean, I know, again, like we've said, you were an internet band. Now you're finally getting to be able to become an out in the world band. What's the best way to find out more about what you're doing? People to hear the songs you have available now and that kind of thing.
well, obviously, we got Instagram, we got Bandcamp, which is where you can find all our music and buy our shit. We are going to be putting up merch on there sooner than later.
Cool.
Buy our shit, everybody. We got a TikTok page that I basically just do shit posting on, whatever. I don't take it that seriously, but that app is kind of how we actually started gaining like some like actual traction.
Oh, cool.
There was this one guy who had like, I don't know, almost like 200,000 followers now, who found our song through there, and he used it in one of his videos, and that video got like 300,000 views or something like that. And then a bunch of people found us through there, and that
Right on.
song is currently sitting at just over 9,000 plays on Spotify. So
Cool.
that was a Pyramid Scheme Mega Mall Fracking Expo car dealership.
Another very good song title, yeah. But that
That's
is the
kind
way,
of our one big hit.
right. That's the way to do things now, though, right? I mean, it's like, because not whether you're an internet band or not, I mean, you have to find these weird new platforms to kind of get the word out, because it's DIY punk rock is not the same DIY punk rock. Even when I was a kid, I'm not that old, and then there's like multiple generations before me who are doing this, and this is like this whole new world of technology and stuff. So I'm glad to hear that TikTok's working for you. I have it, but I have no idea what I'm doing with it. But
Yeah, I think I follow you.
yeah, I think so. Yeah. You seem to know what you're doing though, so that's good. I'm glad that that's working out. And then the good thing about this being a podcast is someone could hear this, when it comes out, or they could hear it a year from now. What's the best way to sort of keep in touch with what you're doing as far as shows and things like that? Is it the Instagram, or where should people
Definitely
go?
Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram. We also have a Facebook that we post on
we do.
sometimes, but Instagram's the way to go, I would say. But yeah, we're just Hopscotchbattlescars everywhere. So we're on YouTube as well.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely subscribe to our YouTube. I want to try and get that to 100 subscribers, right? Like 63 or something now.
It's not bad that you get there. You're on the way, right? Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, yeah, I'm glad I discovered you. I can't remember who it is who recommended you, but thank you to them, because I always like finding new bands, and I especially like finding new bands that I really like based on what I've heard. So hopefully, when the world changes for the better, I'll be able to see you live, and hopefully people listening to the show will get into you too. So I really appreciate you giving me the time, and thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Okay.